Hey everybody. Today in Mr. Kenny's history class, we're going to be looking at the Punic Wars, one of my favorite parts of Roman history. So let's get going. Okay, so the Punic Wars are going to be wars between the budding Roman Republic and the Kingdom of Carthage. Carthage is a city-state that we see pictured here, but we're going to learn that they're going to control the Mediterranean with their vast naval power. Now, it's all going to start with a dispute over Sicily. You see, Sicily is going to be the island that we see that's half purple, half gray right here. And the island of Sicily is going to be an important location for trade because it's right smack dab in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. So it's easy to launch expeditions to other locations from Sicily. Now, Carthage had been a city-state for a long time. It had been part of Phoenicia, which we discussed earlier this year. And we had the whole story of Queen Dido going over, purchasing the land, but no one wanted to sell it to her. So the one cruel king said, "Oh, I'll sell it to you for how much land you could go and cover in an ox skin." So she went and had that ox skin cut into a very tiny little thread and then circled a big, big swath of land to create Carthage. Um, so Carthage had been around for a while. Rome was the new kid on the block, and Carthage was dominating the Mediterranean trade. Now we had Greeks and Carthaginians living on the island of Sicily. And essentially, what's going to happen, the people of Sicily are the Carthaginian side are going to beg Carthage, "Hey, help us with these Greeks." The Greeks are going to beg the Romans, saying, "Hey, help us with these Carthaginians." And little did they know they're going to start some of the bloodiest, most terrible wars in Roman history. All right, so let's look at our first Punic War. Let's look at the first Punic War that we have here. So, like I said, this is fought over the control of the island of Sicily because they want to control the Mediterranean trade. Now, the beginning of this war, and for the majority of it, it's going to be naval battles. Now, Carthage had been a naval power for hundreds of years. Carthage has been a true strength in all of this with the power of their navy. Rome didn't even really have a navy before this all began. So Rome is going to be at a distinct disadvantage. And basically, Rome is defeated time and time and time again. Literally, the Romans will build a fleet. Some of the senators will say, "Well, we need to go train this fleet. We need to have experience." And then a foolhardy Roman general say, "No, I'm going to defeat Carthage right now." Goes out, literally loses the whole fleet. I think this happens twice in the wars where the Romans just completely, they build these ships, they get all these sailors, and then they all get wiped out. Well, Rome has been fighting for now roughly 200 years on the Italian peninsula, gaining ground, and they became quite adept at fighting on land. So if we look down at this picture of the Roman trireme right here, we see this. And a lot of people might be thinking, what in the world is that? And I know some of you are like, well, that looks kind of like a spike or a bridge. And that's exactly what it is. See, Rome is going to turn the tides of this battle, this war, by turning each of those naval battles into miniature land ships. So the way triremes fought, and trireme was the name of their boats. We have a battering ram right here. So traditionally, what would happen is the boats would try to treat themselves like a missile. We talked about this when we talked about our Persian wars with the Greeks versus the Persians. And yeah, so we have the boat going, and then the attacking boat would try to go like that and smash through them in this big battering ram, often wooden covered with bronze to make it stronger. That's how they do it. They would be guided missiles. Well, that works great if you're experienced at fighting in the water, great at navigating your boat. So the Romans, though, we have our Carthaginian ship, do 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 do, Romans, what are you doing? You don't fight this way. You don't fight going parallel. And, perhaps that Roman sea captain just laughed as then whoosh, that bridge with the spike lands on top of the Carthaginian ship. Hopefully, there's no Carthaginians right under where that went because that would make a terrible mess, I'm sure. And then we see on the boat all of these Roman legion soldiers that would be ready to run on over, and they would take over the boat. Of course, the Carthaginians, they weren't expecting hand-to-hand combat on these boats, and the Romans really revolutionized how battles are fought on the sea. And then the Romans wind up winning the First Punic War. So they turn sea battles into land battles. Oh, I think it's so cool, so interesting. Let's now move on. So, our Second Punic War, because I told you there would be three. After the First Punic War, Rome not only controls the Italian peninsula, but they gained three islands. The island of Sicily, which they fought over, which perhaps those Greeks who asked for Roman help did not realize that they were just going to be giving them all of the territory. I don't know. Maybe they'll regret that later on. The island of Sardinia and the island of Corsica. So now Rome, not Carthage, will be the Mediterranean power in the world through trade. We say they've even gone and expanded a little bit over into the Balkan Peninsula for our mainland Greece. Now, Carthage will still be a powerful enemy. They're going to control North Africa. They're also going to control what the Romans called Hispania, but we would call Spain today, or you could call it the Iberian Peninsula. Now, there was a general in the First Punic War who had a son named Hannibal, and he made his son swear to him that no matter what, you would hate Rome. You would have Rome pay for what they did in the First Punic War. And Hannibal and his brothers are going to go and keep that promise. They will hate Rome. So they come up with a plan. They say the Romans would never expect someone to go and attack from the north. Because remember, when we talked about our geography, we have the Alps in the north protecting Rome, keeping Rome safe. So Hannibal and his brothers, they're going to go into Hispania, the Iberian Peninsula, and they are going to build up an army. They're going to wind up going and allying themselves with Celts, which are going to be the native people there, and Gauls, who also hate Rome and have fought Rome in the past. They're going to create a humongous army. They're even going to bring war elephants from Africa. And as we can see from this line, they're going to wind up going all the way through the north and go through the Alps and attack Rome from the north. Let's see what happens. Okay, so Hannibal, like I said, does a surprise attack from the north, and Hannibal winds up easily defeating Rome. He's like the boogeyman. He attacks, and the Romans are terrified. He winds up wiping out Roman army after Roman army. At the Battle of Cannae, we have a Roman army of 90,000 soldiers, we estimate. Hannibal, with a smaller army, winds up encircling that humongous Roman army. And they wind up getting tighter and tighter. We remember how they fought in ancient times. They fought side by side in close ranks. It'll be some variation, not quite like the Greek phalanx we saw, but still fighting like that. And it said that the Romans literally, they get so tightly compacted and compressed that they can't move. They say that by the time the Carthaginians got to the middle, they saw some Romans had buried their head in the sand to try to avoid the horrors that were to bestow them. So, Rome loses legion after legion. Mothers tell their children to eat their vegetables to go to bed, or else the boogeyman Hannibal would come and get them. This happens for years and years and years. But the city of Rome doesn't get attacked. Some Roman cities are attacked. Some Roman cities even join Hannibal in rebellion because they weren't being lived in by true Romans. They were being people who Rome had conquered. Hannibal attacks, but does not attack Rome for some reason. He continually goes and writes back to Carthage saying, "Send reinforcements so I can crush the Romans." But they don't send any. You see, the Romans, they're defending in the Italian peninsula and losing. But they send some legions to go attack the Carthaginians in Spain against Hannibal's brother. And the Romans are winning there. So Carthage is going and sending reinforcements to Spain, where the Carthaginians are losing. Now, historians often wonder if perhaps they just went and sent more soldiers to Hannibal. Hannibal might have been able to win the war and changed history, but they don't. So the Romans realize very quickly that they can't stop Hannibal in Italy. So they send a force, the man named Scipio, to go attack Carthage itself. Kind of think about it like a Hail Mary. Nothing's working, so they go straight for the goal, the touchdown. Of course, Carthage immediately then writes in, "Please come, the Romans are here, please stop." So at the Battle of Zama, we have Hannibal meet Scipio, who will then get the moniker Africanus, the conqueror of Africa, because Scipio defeats Hannibal. It's one of those things where the Second Punic War, victory was always in Hannibal's grasp, yet couldn't quite seal it. And then Hannibal loses. The terms of this war are going to be terrible. Carthage has to go give all of their territory to Rome. Hannibal is so distraught over this that he commits suicide. So Carthage loses all of its territory. Carthage is forced to go sign a treaty that they will not raise an army unless they get permission from the Roman Senate. But still, some people in Rome are worried about Carthage. Some say that Carthage will rise again, because Carthage had been the dominant power for 500 years. Hannibal had almost defeated Rome. They were scared of Carthage for years and years. Carthage was the enemy. So we have someone named Cato the Elder, who every time he gave a speech, he could be talking about, building Roman roads at the end of the speech, but mark my words, Roman citizens, Carthage will rise again. He might be going and talking about, having a nice festival for everyone, hopefully where they don't steal a bunch of girls this time, and say, but Carthage will rise again. Well, a nearby African kingdom, Numidia, allied with Rome, mind you, attacks Carthage. Carthage sends letters to the Roman Republic. May we please raise an army to defend ourselves? There's no response. They send another letter. We need to defend ourselves against the Numidian threat. The Roman Senate does not respond, so Carthage raises an army to defend themselves. And Rome attacks Carthage. Cato says, I told you this would happen. Carthage is rising again. We must stop them. And quickly as that, Rome sends an army. Carthage is told when the Romans get there that they must send their noble sons as Roman slaves or they will attack. Carthage says no. Now this is amazing. Now Carthage really didn't have any weapons or capacity for war, but yet they turn things around. They melt everything they can and make it into weapons. They create an army quickly. But it is not enough. Rome easily conquers Carthage. The entire population is sold into slavery. Every single man, woman, and child. Every single. Everything that was valuable was taken to Rome. Literally anything that could be taken that was nice, they took and sent it to Rome. Everything else was burned to the ground. and then those ashes thrown into the sea. Carthage is being erased, everyone. And then what they do is they take the land that was Carthage and then they sow it with salt, which you might be wondering, what does that mean, to sow the land with salt? Well, sowing the land with salt means that nothing could grow there again. That's right. If you put a lot of salt on your plant, it will kill the plant. Natural weed killers have sodium in them. So they sell the entire population of Carthage that wasn't killed in the fighting into slavery. Everything valuable is taken to Rome. Everything that's not valuable burned and the ashes thrown into the sea. And then the land made desolate, a desert, so that Carthage could never rise again. That, my friends, is the end of the Third Punic War. Thank you so much for joining me, all. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I hope that you guys learned something. And if you're really interested in this, Hardcore History by Dan Carlin has a great series called Punic Nightmares, which has fantastic stories that I wasn't able to share with you today. So thank you for all that you guys listening. Like and subscribe. Share it around. Have a great day.